Title screens can be one of the most memorable and impactful parts of a great video game. While it may seem like title screens are nothing more than a simple menu system, they can be so much more than that. When done well, a good title screen can represent what the game is all about. It's a window into the world it's inviting you to spend time in, trying to capture the atmosphere and feelings it wants the player to experience. Title screens might not be the first thing you think of when it comes to important game design elements, but they can be a tool used to elevate a game to legendary status. Of course, the actual gameplay itself has to be great as well, but if you combine that with a fantastic title screen, you get something really special. There are about 1,000 different examples of amazing title screens throughout all of gaming, and I don't think I'd be able to cover all of them properly in one video. So instead, I'm going to focus specifically on Nintendo games. I'll be going over lots of different examples, some good ones, some bad ones, and why they can be so powerful. Let's start with easily one of the best and most iconic Nintendo title screens, Ocarina of Time. This opening shot of the moon illuminating the night sky as Link rides Epona in the distance is just incredible. Then it transitions into a cinematic shot sweeping over the hill as the game's logo slowly fades into the center of the screen. These dynamic camera angles are the perfect way to show the player what's possible now that the Zelda series has entered the third dimension. This game is an epic fantasy adventure full of action and excitement, but the title screen doesn't go for an upbeat and happy feeling. Instead, it captures the quiet moments of Ocarina of Time, like stopping by a river so your horse can get a drink. There's a certain magic to this title screen that honestly still hasn't been topped by any Zelda game since. That's not to say that there aren't some other amazing title screens in the Zelda series, because basically every single Zelda game has a great one. Twilight Princess takes a very similar approach to Ocarina of Time, which works super well, and the Wind Waker's bright and happy title screen always puts a smile on my face. But sadly, there is one Zelda game that totally failed when it comes to its title screen, and that's Breath of the Wild. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Breath of the Wild and it's seriously one of my favorite games of all time, which is why this boring title screen is so disappointing. It's basically just a slideshow of some of the game's art, which is beautiful, yes, but it just feels so empty and lifeless. I mean, there isn't even any music. This game has such an expansive and gorgeous open world, so there was a lot of potential here. This honestly just makes me sad, and I hope the sequel is able to do something more creative and exciting with its title screen. One console generation that always seemed to have fantastic title screens is the Super Nintendo. From Super Mario Kart to Donkey Kong Country, this system is home to so many great ones. Earthbound's opening movie is particularly great. It's so full of personality and charm. But by far the best title screen on the Super Nintendo comes from Super Metroid. Eerie music plays as the camera moves over a creepy lab setting surrounded by dead scientists, cutting back and forth to red text on a black background. Then we see a single Metroid in the center of the screen and the music hits right as the logo appears. For the limited power of the SNES, this intro is super cinematic and full of atmosphere, and I love how perfectly it fits with the music. Right from the beginning, you can tell that this game is going to be a masterpiece. Metroid Dread has a pretty great title screen too, with the space backdrop behind Planet ZDR fading in once the music hits. Not quite on the level of Super Metroid, but still really good. Music goes hand in hand with title screens, and the best ones always use the soundtrack to its full effect. Usually the title theme is a song designed to encapsulate everything about the game in just one song, which is such a cool concept. It's also important to time things just right so everything works together in harmony. Like when the Super Mario Galaxy logo comes flying on screen to the sound of a full orchestra and then slows down to more relaxing sounding music as space spins in the background. Or when the spooky Luigi's Mansion music plays right as the logo stretches out on top of a silhouette of the mansion itself. Another example of a title screen that is made much better by its music is Wii Sports. This one would be pretty basic if it wasn't for this insanely energetic song. I don't think I've ever been so hyped to press A and B. Wii Sports Resort also does a pretty cool thing where after playing through the skydiving intro, you can see all the little Miis flying down to Woohoo Island on the title screen. Another one of the greatest video game title screens of all time comes from Xenoblade Chronicles. It shows the Monado sticking out of the ground in the middle of a field, with some old mechanical ruins to the left, the grass waving slowly in the wind in the foreground, and a gorgeous cloudy sky in the background. It opens during the early hours of the morning, with some beautifully simple piano notes playing as you take in the amazing scenery. As the song continues playing, it keeps building up with more and more instruments adding in as the scene starts to change, reaching its climax as the sky is bathed in stunning sunset light. Then, as the music starts to fade and the Monado lights up, it transitions into a starry night sky and the music returns to simple piano notes. This is possibly my personal favorite video game title screen of all time. Xenoblade Chronicles' story is truly epic in scale and full of emotion, and the title screen reflects that perfectly. Some games try taking a more creative approach, like seamlessly connecting the title screen with the gameplay itself. We can see this most recently in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, where once you select continue, Kirby comes flying in on a warp star and you get right into the game. The music even transitions from the menu music into the Waddle Dee Town theme. And in Mario Maker, you can play through one of your very own levels without even leaving the title screen. Speaking of Mario, in Super Mario 64, you can play around with a 3D model of Mario's face, stretching his face in all sorts of unnatural ways. For being one of the first big games to make the jump to 3D, this was a really creative way to show off the fancy new graphics. And another great interactive title screen comes from Pikmin 2, where by pressing certain buttons the Pikmin will form the Nintendo logo, and you can even control this guy and eat some Pikmin if you're a monster. The environment also changes seasons, which is amazing. I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, but some of the older games have some pretty great title screens. Heart Gold and Soul Silver have always stood out to me as being really memorable. Seeing the legendary Pokemon flying through the sky and swimming through the water on the bottom screen is really cool. And I really quickly have to mention the incredible opening movie that plays before the Super Smash Bros. Melee title screen. The announcer shouting as the title appears will never get old.
Super Smash Brothers Melee!
Probably one of the most disappointing parts about the modern Mario sports games on the Switch are the title screens. These are super boring. It's just a still image of the game's main box art with some music put over it. This is about as low effort as it gets, but at least in Mario Golf Super Rush they added in a cool little opening intro to make things more interesting. Mario Strikers Charged on the Wii is a great example of an actually good title screen for a Mario sports game. The menu is on the ball that Mario is standing above, which is really awesome. Hopefully Mario Strikers Battle League will put an end to the title screen curse of Switch Mario sports games. Okay, I know I said I was only going to talk about examples from Nintendo games, but I'm going to break my own rule really quickly so I can talk about the incredible title screen of Outer Wilds. I'll just let it speak for itself first. Everything about this title screen is perfect. The opening logos being made out of stars, the slow pan down to darkness, and then the campfire lighting up timed perfectly with the amazing banjo music as the planet spins below the game's logo. I adore this title screen, and I just had to include it because of how terrific it is. It creates an atmosphere that I didn't even know existed, and it's a great example of how powerful title screens can be. There are so many more amazing title screens in gaming. Just to name a few that aren't from Nintendo, there's Halo, Stardew Valley, Persona 5, The Last of Us, and Mega Man 2. But what I'm trying to get at with all these examples is that title screens can be a really powerful part of a video game. It's hard to put into words exactly why I love these things so much. The best way I could describe it is like when you have a keepsake from a certain time in your life that you want to remember. So whenever you look back at that object, you're reminded of all the great memories that go along with it. And that's exactly what title screens are for video games. We go on these incredible adventures and have so much fun, and looking back at these simple screens reminds us of all the good feelings we had while playing. The fact that something as basic as title screens can be so powerful and impactful is even more proof that video games are an art form. So that's what I think about all of this, but what do you think? What are some of your favorite video game title screens, Nintendo or otherwise? Leave a comment sharing your thoughts. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see ya in the next one.